Friday. How good is Friday? There's something very special about Friday, isn't there? As I was just saying on a call to someone, there is just something fabulous about Friday, and I like to introduce a lot of these days with a reference to the day. Hopefully, today is not a thank God it's Friday, because that is just it's almost just a reference that you don't like the rest of the week, the Monday, the Tuesday, and the Wednesday, and the Thursday. And it's like, oh, I've got to the finish line. Thank God it's Friday. That's really not, it's not what life is all about. It's definitely not living in the present because it's almost a reference to the past. But what I definitely observe is there is just a far more relaxing feel about most Fridays of the year. Not everyone. If it was Christmas Eve today, it wouldn't feel like this. But today, I would love to talk to you about your purpose in life. This is a continuation of what we spoke about yesterday. Good morning to everyone coming on board. Hello, Fiona. Hope you are fabulous. I saw your order come through the other day, Fiona, I think. Thank you very much for that. Now, yesterday I spoke about the 8 seeds of your exceptional life purpose. Of course, as you can probably gather, I am now doing these daily Facebook Lives because the book is at the printer. I found out this morning that the printer, which is a fabulous printer in Victoria called McPherson's, they are using, because I'm a real traditionalist, I want to use very good paper in the book. And they're using a very sustainable source of printing. So they have put a little thing in here in the imprint page that tells all the readers that we're using a really wonderful eco-friendly paper, but that has delayed printing by 1 or 2 days. And the print, the book was like 1 millimeter off. And as I said to my editor, as my editor said to me, Marcus, people like you and I see 1 millimeter off. So it may not arrive in my driveway on Friday, May 14. It may be a couple of days later. So that's right. It is coming. It is well on the way. So yesterday I spoke about the 8 seeds to your exceptional life purpose. Now, those 8 seeds, if I go through them with you now, there is the seed of resistance, which is really your family, your friends, your employers. There's the seed of being born or married into it, the seed of being exposed to the opposite, particularly in your upbringing, but even in your adult life. Seed number 4, your parents didn't quite make it. Seed number 5, the family desire for fame, wealth, or success. Seed number 6, you have a magnificent obsession that you just cannot shake. Seed number 7, you have a higher calling. Or seed number 8, a tragedy or a crisis. A lot of the time, it is a tragedy or a crisis, but not always. I am a magnificent obsession kind of guy. Einstein was a magnificent obsession kind of guy. But step number 2 is to combine the seeds, because it's often more than one element of our past, of our life, that combine to create our life purpose. So for me, magnificent obsession definitely mixed with some exposure to the opposite. I say in the book that I think one of the best decisions my parents ever made was to end their marriage, because I think I would have been exposed to, for want of a better term, a mediocre marriage. There was not animosity in my family. I didn't grow up hearing parents yelling and screaming. I just think they grew apart, my mum and dad, which a lot of people could attest to in their own marriages. But it definitely reminded me, as I say in the book, that, my worst nightmare would be what my dad lived, was to reverse out of the driveway of the family home for, the last time as the owner or the builder, but really this is the quarter acre memory maker. I talk about, the house that I grew up in is kind of where all the action was, where the birthday parties were, the family dinners, the weekends, the movie nights, the Friday night fish and chip nights, they all shifted. So moving on from that, so step 1 is identify your seeds. Step 2 is combine the seeds. And then number 3 is commit the time. And a lot of people are wondering, well, how much time does it take to identify my life purpose? And a lot of people feel like they are the purpose of my life is to find my life purpose. They kind of say it as a joke, but it's not a bad place to be, because it demonstrates a level of awareness that you really want to, define what the rest of your life is determined to. And it's not what the whole entire life is determined to. It might be just the next period of time. For example, what course are you going to study at university? If you've just finished your 12, you're not saying you're going to be doing it for 40 or 50 years, but for the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years, what do you dedicate, the large majority of your waking hours to? Now, what I've tend to found, and I've mentioned this regularly throughout the book, is that given the, again, I'm a journalist by profession. So in journalism, we often talk about the news cycle. And, it used to be a 24-hour news cycle. You'd read the Herald Sun or the Age on Monday, and then you would just read it again the next day, and it would read again the next day. Whereas these days, the news cycle, it's almost down to the hour. Some would even argue down to the minute, because news changes all the time. You can refresh your feed, your Twitter feed. You can get COVID updates updated every second, every minute. Cases are going up, deaths are going up, this many in this place, whatever. Like, the news cycle is a lot smaller. But I've also noticed it with life purpose. A lot of people want to identify their life purpose a whole lot more quickly, and they're not prepared to dedicate the time it takes to really not just identify, but to live a life purpose. So in the book, I tend to really hone in on 7-year cycles. I think Rudolf Steiner might have made it famous, but I'm sure it's been around for a lot longer than Steiner. When you look at just a lot of success stories, for want of a better term, there's two things in common. Often there was an apprentice and a mentor, an apprentice and a master. And secondly, there was a period of time that took place for a seed to germinate into a plant. And in a career perspective, that is around 7 years. And I've mentioned this regularly throughout the book. Leonardo da Vinci spent over 10 years with the artist Verrocchio. Health professionals complete a 5-year university degree, and ideally the early part of their professional life is viewed as the final chapter in the apprenticeship. A lot of apprentices are required to complete between 2,000 and 12,000 work hours before earning certification. St. Ignatius Loyola said, "Give me the child for the first 7 years and I will give you the man." I've just said, by design, parents' mentors are their own parents, aunties, uncles, and grandparents. In modern times, though, that is rarely the case. I've mentioned Bronnie Ware, who wrote the top 5 regrets of the dying, that she worked with dying people for 8 years. I do love the book, The Greatest Showman, featuring Hugh Jackman. I speak about that as a 7-year journey and adventure between conception and the book and the movie being released. I speak about 7-year itches. Just talk about the power of the number of 7. But 7-year cycles are not something that we can ignore. You may have heard of the 10,000-hour rule, which has some supporters and some naysayers. It doesn't really matter. In my view, I think the key is that success in any area of life takes time. Whether that's in marriage, whether that's in careers, whatever it is. And we get very, we get sucked into thinking that we can actually succeed a whole lot more quickly than what I think we've been designed to. So some really important examples of this, I think of my beautiful wife, Sarah. She's a chiropractor by profession. Went to uni for 5 years, spent 12 years in practice. She'd done 30,000 hours, either studying or working as a chiropractor, but she wanted to spend the next 10,000 hours, the next 7+ years as a stay-at-home parent. And I think sometimes when you get this philosophy in your head, it actually brings forward the idea to make harder decisions. So it's a lot harder to make a decision around what to spend the next 7 years of your life committed to. It's a lot easier to go, what are you going to spend the next 7 minutes, 7 weeks, or 7 months on? I'll go and do this short course, and I'll go and do that short course. And, to be truthful, a lot of people bob from short course to short course and get to the end and still not really any clearer on what they want to do, because they haven't gone deep and narrow into one key area of life. And so I want you to really consider, if you were going to be wild and selfish and write the script of your life, what would you go narrow and deep on rather than shallow and wide on? What would you really commit 10,000 hours to? think about it. What would you commit 7 years to? I know for us, we've just celebrated 7 years up in the Byron Shire, and there is no coincidence for me in my mind that 7 years after moving up here, we're building a home. I've released a book. It didn't happen after a year. It didn't happen after 2 years. Why is it that that's happening after 7 years? There's a couple of other 7-year examples that I'm reflecting on at the moment. But within that 7 years, Sarah's 2 brothers have moved up. Mum and dad have moved up. Her whole entire family is up here. And pretty much on the 7-year anniversary of us moving up here, Sarah's mum and dad moved into their very own home, which they built up here. So there's no surprise to me with the magic of 7 years. I just spoke to a friend the other day who had resigned from his job to take another job. I said, how long has that been? Is it around 7 years? He said, yeah, it is about 7 years. I said, well, no mistake. Someone else has just divorced. How long was that? About 7 years? Yeah, it was about 7 years. Look, the average, I think the median kind of point in a marriage divorce is around 8 years in Australia. There's no surprises here, folks. Don't go all woo-woo on this. You don't have to. Just take a look around you and see how much significant stuff happens on a 7-year basis on you could say it on destructive sides and on constructive sides. So marriage is falling apart after 7 years, but careers and life purposes being realized or flourished or going into the next evolution of their existence, whether it's children going from, they're not just this cute little baby anymore. They're like a 7-year-old child, whether it's 14-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 28-year-olds, Saturn returns. Don't get me started on this, folks. I think it's absolutely fascinating, but I want you to really own that your life purpose, whilst it might be discovered in 7 seconds, it's like these discoveries can happen as an epiphany, but the realization of it, the hard work, the slug, the grind can be a 7-year adventure. Maybe less, maybe 5, maybe 9, 7 plus or minus 2. It doesn't really matter, but work the expectation management around 7 years. Folks, if you're enjoying this conversation, as I said, the book is at the printers. It is coming out really to the wider public in the Amazon store that is around the world in the middle of May. Looking forward to sending it to you. Thank you to everyone who has supported the book so far by way of pre-order. It is a hard copy that is on the pre-orders at the moment. There will be ebooks going up for pre-order when it's listed on Amazon in the next couple of weeks. Until then, folks, have a wonderful weekend. You can order the book, marcuspearce.com.au/pre-order. Again, thanks again for your support. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, may the rest of your life continue to be the best of your life. Take it easy and bye for now.